Hello and welcome to Woman Up, the podcast series by Desperate Art Wives. I'm Susan Merrick and today I'm speaking with artist Etty Wade. Etty began making work about motherhood after her second child was born in the year 2000, with a focus specifically on maternal subjectivity and the maternal gaze. Her photographic series show acute sensitivities to family relationships and specifically the bodily connections between mothers and their children.
Hi, Susan. It's lovely talking to you as well. I've not been in touch with the network with mother artists for a long time, so it's really nice to have this chat.
So I know you, Etty, through your photographic works, specifically through your works Jocasta and Nuclear. But actually, I'd really like to start by going further back and ask you what got you into becoming an artist and photographer.
Wow, that's a difficult one. I think it was actually more to do with the fact that I was working as a photography teacher, and I came into that as a commercial photographer, and within that context, I started developing a creative practice. So it's not the kind of the normal way that kind of people start by being, having always been artists. It's kind of developed through a space that allowed me the opportunity to really look into developing a creative practice. And then in that context, I kind of, for a long time, I searched for what my practice was. And I was kind of always, I suppose, talking to students as well about, and later on about kind of finding the voice, finding the particular focus. And I was making work about motherhood, but it took me a while to suddenly kind of realize this is what my practice was. And I think that was quite it's interesting when you see, when that happens and you look back and you think it was there all along and you've kind of, how did I not see it?
Etty, how did you find moving from more of a traditional technical side of photography, which I suppose the commercial side would have been, a more formal photography, into more of a creative practice? How did you find that change?
I think it took a long time and I was very insecure about it along the way. I was kind of experimenting and trying things and kind of very unsure about myself. And I suppose it kind of helped having mentors along the way. I can't remember exactly when it was, but I started studying for a practice-based PhD at Goldsmiths. And I was assigned an artist called Melanie Mancho as my tutor. And when I was working with her, that was when I started developing the series Jocasta. And it was a very strange thing to do because I basically kind of started playing with a scanner and started playing with kind of, I don't know, pressing my child's face against a scanner plate, and really not sure that this, just being very unsure of myself. Is it, what's the validity of doing something like that? And it was really helpful to have, just to have somebody so well known and experienced say to me, yes, keep doing that, and then it all kind of developed from there. I think Jocasta was kind of thinking ahead to this conversation, because really maybe what is important to say also is that not only talking about my start, but also the fact that I'm not actually practicing. I've not been a practicing artist for quite a few years now. And I was thinking about my work, the work that I have produced over the years, and about how it I always felt a bit uncertain about my work, and I thought that I'm not a proper artist, because when suddenly I started making, when Yocasta started coming together, it was more like autotherapy. It was more a real, it came from such a deep place, because it came from my own, experience of having postnatal depression and really struggling to bond with my eldest, my firstborn. And then suddenly I found this mode of expression which had so much passion in it, and so much rage and so much pain. And it was so raw and honest. And it's like as if what I did was like, I don't know, I'm kind of saying beyond art, but I'm not any better than, it was something else. It was this expression of pain that just came out and was served such an amazing purpose for me, because it was a real kind of process of self-therapy, and it allowed me to accept, because I was putting it out there, because I was making it visible and public, it allowed me to kind of forgive myself and to accept myself. And I kind of, maybe just to kind of explain a little bit more why I'm not practicing. A few years ago, there was a restructured university, and I took voluntary redundancy, and now I work full time in something completely different. So I'm kind of, this is a particular period in my life, a period where I was in a position to make this work, and I had this opportunity, and it took me a while to find what it was that I wanted to express. But when it clicked, it was just so powerful. And then the kind of the theory and the critical analysis came together, and the understanding of why I made it and what I was trying to say. And there was also always a really powerful kind of political element to it, because I truly believe that when I was kind of experiencing my kind of hardship with adjusting to motherhood, with kind of postnatal depression, I felt that there was nothing out there that allowed me to see that I wasn't alone, or I wasn't the only one. And I kind of truly believed that there was something seriously wrong with me as a person, even because I struggled so much with bonding with my child. And that struggle made me feel very passionate about trying to do something about it and create something that hopefully, if anyone else was going through that and had an opportunity to see my work or other work that expressed it, that it would make it easier, and a woman in that situation wouldn't feel so monstrous like I did.
What you're saying there, Etty, is really reminding me very much of the work itself, the pieces that I've seen of the series. So I'd like to try and describe the images for the listeners, if I may. The pieces that I've seen are large-scale, close-up scans of you and your young son, both of you pressed against the scanner plate. These images are really bodily, of squashed faces and body parts, merging almost to this lens that's so close and unforgiving. It's one of those where you look at it, especially from my own perspective as a mother, and you see a mixture of joy and passion and that intimacy and connection with the child, but also the true raw pain that you obviously felt, but that can be reflective of such major changes that happen when you have children.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear, because it just kind of means that what you experienced when you saw them is what I was hoping to achieve. I want to talk a little bit more about, so you've described it. I want to kind of say a few more things about the process and about the kind of the thinking. No, it wasn't thinking, because it was very instinctive when I was making it. But I really wanted to shout. I really wanted people I wanted to confront people, and I wanted to make work that will be difficult I don't know if I wanted the work to be difficult for mothers, but I wanted the work to be difficult for a general public. And I always thought about, the work has some violence in it. It has in the body, in the kind of tension in the body, in the hands grabbing hold of the child's hand or the child's kind of face, because I didn't want, I suppose, and again, I'm kind of mixing the practice itself and the kind of the post thinking about it, and so much work around motherhood, I suppose, up to that point or even since, is just it's soft and it's palatable and it's beautiful and it's sentimental and it's and there was nothing for me, I wanted none of that in this work. I wanted people to feel the pain, and I wanted them to be disturbed by it, because I resented the fact that I was so invisible to myself and to others when I was there, with a child who I just knew that something that I was doing something was wrong. And I think another thing about the postnatal depression is that I never got any help, because I was too scared to say anything about it, because I felt that there was, that I should be locked up. So it's kind of nice to hear that your kind of experience of the work tallies with what I wanted it to do.
I find it really interesting to meet an artist like yourself who has had an experience like you had, and not only referenced it in your work, but given a glimmer of that type of emotion and experience that really hits you back as a viewer, that makes you want to talk about the issue. So, Etty, some of your other works, the Nuclear series, for example, include family portraits done over a period of years. I've seen some of the work, but I don't know very much about it. I'd love to hear a bit about that work. And was it coming from a similar place?
But Nuclear came about, it was kind of trying to create a community and reaching out to other families. So Nuclear was basically a series of portraits of families whose children, they had one or two, if twins, children in the same year as my middle son at school. And I kind of went into people's homes and I used a large format camera, which I enjoyed using because it created a completely new tension around how you experience being photographed. It was made kind of around the year, what was it? Probably 2010, 2011. So, digital photography, snapping was very much part of everybody's experience of being photographed. And I was kind of, I thought it would be interesting to bring in a very traditional, very kind of yesteryear, historical type device into a family home and work in this kind of slow, nearly painfully slow method. And in that, creating an opportunity for different things to be revealed to the audience because the subjects weren't practiced in how to present themselves to this kind of recording process. So that was a bit of fun. And I think looking back at this work, it's each family kind of reveals its own dynamic. There's kind of little tensions, little kind of unconscious things about body language, about touching, the way that the bodies kind of stick together or keep apart. So they kind of each tell a story about an individual family. And then also as a collective, they tell a story of a community, of actually kind of families of millennial children, because they were all born in the year 2000. So that was a bit of fun. But there's another series that I want to maybe mention. It's kind of sad that my website is not up. It hasn't been up for a while. So I don't know. That's terrible of me. I should probably sort it out and bring it back up again. But I did a series called the IKEA Lack Coffee Table Family Portrait Series. And that was done around that same time. And it was a series of daily photographs taken of our family with a camera on a tripod with a timer. And we stood on IKEA Lack coffee tables, positioned in different places in the house and kind of covered the whole house. As in each day it was a slightly different position. And it ran for 3 months, and it ran from my middle son's birthday, which is the 12th of February, to my eldest son's birthday, which is the 12th of May, which is 3 months. And it was kind of a reaction to how do you know what to photograph, what's important, what's not important, and to kind of create a system that would kind of take away the decision for me. And it's just kind of same family, same group of people, every day, slightly different, but also the same. It's kind of one of my favorite pieces, basically.
I came across a couple of the images of that work actually yesterday, Etty. And what I really loved was the humour. It's funny to make a family stand on an IKEA coffee table, and for it to be that IKEA, that everyday reference. That series just has got a really good sense of humour to it, whilst also very seriously looking at family groupings and contemporary ideas of the family, and so much reference as well to modern day consumption. I mean, you took the photographs every day for a period of time, and with our modern consumption of photography with phones and social media, it's so relevant. So I would encourage listeners to check out your links below the podcast that we'll put there, and see some of this work.
Yeah, I will look up a few links and I will send them to you. I think the other thing about the IKEA Lack Coffee Table Family Portrait Series is the power that I exerted by and the family kind of indulging me, kind of, being able to do that. The mother photographer in charge, whipping the family into shape and saying, "This is what I'm doing now. It's nonsense. It's bonkers. But this is what I have to do, and you're going to do it because I say so."
How did they take that? Your partner and your children. Were they quite willing?
They created little resistances within it, and actually they tried to hide and my husband basically grew a beard, which started from the beginning and I didn't even notice that he was doing it. Then I was stuck with it for 3 years. Eventually he agreed to shave it off. But they kind of retaliated. They did their little kind of resistances within that. So they indulged me, but they also took their own little revenge on me for making them do that.
I love that. I want to see the series now and just see this beard progression as well. So, Etty, you have mentioned already at the start of the interview that you have not been calling yourself a practicing artist now for a few years. Is this something you're happy to go into with us, or would you like to leave that?
No, I'm happy to go into, because so my role is, I suppose, changed. I've kind of set up a business and I run a business now, and I provide for my family, and this is what I do now, and this is the phase in life that I need to do it. What I'll do in the future might be different, but this is where my focus is now, and on the one hand, I don't have any choice, but on the other hand, it also gives me a lot of pride that I'm carrying this, that I'm taking care of my family, and I'm doing it, I think, well enough. So yeah, this is what I'm at. This is where I'm at now.
I think it's really important for us to hear about artists like yourself who are taking a break from practice, Etty, because so many do, but also to recognise that that as women, as artists, as people, any people with other responsibilities, sometimes we do have to make massive changes, and this is part and parcel of our lives. It's part and parcel of artists' lives as well.
Yeah, but I think I'm really grateful for this opportunity to talk to you, and because when you contacted me, you and Amy, specifically Amy, said that she considers me a pioneer, or somebody who's kind of set something in motion or has been there at the beginning, and that is really meaningful for me. That I really, and actually having the opportunity to talk about my work today, I've not done that for a very long time, and I was worried about whether I'll find the right words. And it's been a real pleasure for me, because it did come out flowing, and I expressed, the things that I wanted to express. It's there. It's there. It's in me. And it was a pleasure to realize that it's still there. I've not lost it. I know what I was doing. I know the reasons. I know the emotion, and I could express it well. And it's lovely to kind of to find that those words are still there in me.
You certainly are. And with regard to words, Etty, I know that within the writing of your work, you've used the term maternal gaze since the early 2000s, when your photographic series were being made. And during the 2000s, as it was during the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and still now, it's not necessarily the done thing to be making work about being a mother. This work and this idea is still so relevant today. So could you talk a bit about what you mean specifically by the maternal gaze?
I think one of the things about representation of motherhood is that the mother is always the subject, and the kind of point of view, the maternal point of view, is hardly ever acknowledged. Probably because there's so few, there has been in the past so few bodies of work from that particular point of view. And it kind of makes me think about another piece that I suddenly forgot, but is actually probably the most easy to find still online, which is 57 Baths, which was a series of videos that I created. And I used a little micro video camera that I strapped onto my forehead, and I used as a third eye. And these videos are basically, there's no editing to them. There's just a recording of handling a child at the end of a long day in the bath, with everything that comes with it, with the screams, with the cries, with the kind of and sometimes, and with the fun that comes with it as well. And I think that was a kind of a really classic maternal gaze. You can't get more maternal gaze than that. Strapping a camera between your eyes and recording everything from that point of view. And it was just making that point of view visible.
Oh, thank you very much, Etty.
You're very welcome. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you for listening. This was Woman Up, a podcast series by Desperate Art Wives.